So many people will use the things that are set in front of them. The defaults, Times New Roman, Arial, Calibri. They'll just pick the path that's the easiest, the one that's right in front of them, and it's good enough to get the job done. It's like a duct tape that holds things together, but it's not necessarily the right tool for the job. Today, I want to talk about why pie charts suck, why they're often the wrong tool for the job, and what to do about it. Before we're able to talk about just pie charts, I need to give you a little bit of background of why we would use visualizations, how they came about, what a pie chart is, why it's bad, and then what you should do instead. So visualizations are really good ways of letting you understand data that you've recorded and the trends inside there quickly. So you can look over here, you'll see time and distance. And if you look at this quickly, you really got to think about it. Okay, between these two rows, here's what I have, here's what's going on. But if you put it into a chart, you instantly see something is getting farther away from me at the same speed every second. By putting this together, you're showing the same information in a way that you can absorb it faster. And they've been around for a while. We now think of them as computer-based things, but here I mimicked an old one from the early 1800s where you can actually record things by hand in a way that shows you naturally the bell curve of a distribution. So here I recorded branch lengths, and I showed that things centered around 150 centimeters, and you naturally see that kind of bell curve. And they've been around for long enough that you'll see ones from the very beginning of American history on the other side of the pond. Britain had a huge trouble with their debts to Nordic countries, and so they hired someone to figure out how to take all that tabular data from all the different deficits, imports, plot it, and then hand it up so that people would understand what was going on. So William Playfair created some of the first very pretty charts that showed what the national deficit was doing over in Europe. Now we come to our problem, pie charts. They're simple. You'll see them everywhere. They show the proportions of a group, and they're common default charts. Like right here, you're learning something. There are 4 groups in this chart. Turquoise is the largest. Well, cool. You learned something about turquoise. But how big is turquoise in general? I don't know. Pie charts are the common default because they're easy, but pie charts are also ugly, and they're hard to read. So my first issue is purely aesthetic. This right here is a real pie chart I found actually on a website that they were trying to use to explain how big each of the states was in population. First off, this is actually full size. You couldn't read it on the website. Secondly, the colors are terrible. And finally, they're not in order. These first big ones are, but if you wanted to figure out like what's the population of Kentucky, you really got to search in there. To me, it looks like the spinning ball of death, and I am convinced you get exactly as much information out of it. But that's not the only problem with pie charts. Pie charts also deceive you about the size of a whole. Sure, they can show you about the relative proportions, and you can know that store 4 right here, killing it. And you know that this is doing more than store 1, but if this is Q1 and that's Q2, what's going on? Well, I don't know. I can't tell you. I can just tell you that the proportions of each sales are the same. By the way, this is actually Microsoft's default. I didn't pick these ugly clashing colors. What you don't know is that I made this data, and that this chart, the back numbers, are 10 times larger than that one. So if you're a manager of a bunch of stores and you see these franchises, you might think things are hunky-dory, but things are not hunky-dory. You've just seen sales collapse across all of your stores. That's a major problem. So what should you do instead? Well, instead of just picking the easiest tool, the default, the one that Microsoft in Word or PowerPoint or Excel is going to suggest for you, think about what the story is that you want to tell. If you're someone who's managing all these stores and you need to get the attention of people who are your higher-ups, the pie chart's the wrong choice. A stacked bar chart might be a good choice. With this, you still see all of the proportions of things, but you also see the scale. So you're getting a story that tells you both about the relative size, but also the absolute size of things. The other thing you can do, and I think things that we've lost, sometimes words are good. It doesn't have to be a whole essay, but instead of having someone look through this and try to figure out exactly what's going on, you can write an email that's literally 2 paragraphs. This took me maybe 45 seconds. And you get the point across immediately with 2 things that you tell them that they need to answer. You're providing clear information across a whole. You're providing the context that you know is there, and you've made it very clear what you expect out of them as part of their actions. So in summary, visualizations are a tool. Don't let them be a burden. Just because it's in front of you as an option does not mean it's the right thing to do. Think quickly about the importance of visualizations and what you're using it for. Think about if pie charts are the right choice. Occasionally they are, but usually they're not. And my recommendation is to make sure that you're using the right kind of chart. How are you telling the story? And then make sure that that all aligns with the narrative of what you want someone to take out of your overall presentation. Now with all this, I do want to mention that there is one kind of pie chart that I think is fully acceptable, and it comes every single year at the same time every year. And that is the pie chart of pies. You'll see this on CNBC every year right around Thanksgiving, and it changes slightly. I currently fall into the apple pie group, but every year I think that there's a new one that I really give a considerable thought to. So with all that, make sure you consider what stories you want to tell, what things you want people to take from your presentation, and don't let the default keep you from innovating. Thank you.